You're listening to High School Sports Talk on ESPN Radio, presented by VirginiaPreps.com. Now, here are your hosts, Matt Hatfield and the coach, Ed Young.
It's a glorious Saturday. Glad you are here with us on the 8th of September here on High School Sports Talk, presented by VirginiaPreps.com, exclusively on ESPN Radio 94.1, 81 degrees outside. Chance of some showers and storms, but we hope they won't come your way today. On this football Saturday, a lot of college football action, and we're here to talk plenty of high school football and much, much more with you. I am Matt Hatfield.
I'm the coach, Ed Young.
Sitting across from me wearing his Yankee shirt. But if you enjoyed it last week, you'll love it even more this week. The Ed Young Traffic Report, ladies and gents, sponsored by nobody. For now, we're working on that. Okay.
Speed limit. It's a suggested speed. Try to stay close to it. Okay, if it says 55, there's no reason to go 45, 42 mile an hour. If you don't know where you're going, get off the road. All right, you don't look around to see where you're at in the middle of the road. Get off the road. All right. Once again, solid white, solid yellow lines means you don't cross them. If you don't like the color, I'm sorry, that's the color they have to be. You don't cross them. You don't pass people on the top of a bridge where the metal grate is. That's why there's no broken white line on that. You wait till you get off of it. When you signal to move over, if there is no space, or the car beside you doesn't want you to get in, you can't bull rush in. If that was your exit, take the next exit and come back over. It's that simple. When you are entering from a side street onto an interstate, you have to merge when the timing is right. You don't just bull rush in and figure, well, you saw me, let me in. There's no room to let you in.
We got catchy traffic music, too, now. Look at that.
I like that. It's good.
By the way, this is not Ed Young in grumpy mode. This is his normal, regular, calm mood.
When I have to tell it like it is. Teacher, so. I'm just trying to help. License plate 967
No, don't do
CLT.
Don't do that.
Okay? You don't get your license out of a cereal box. Those are fake. Those are for little kids. Those are not real driving licenses. All right? So put that away.
Oh.
People from out of town, out of state, so to speak. Virginia has laws just like your state does.
Maybe you should take an alternate route here.
That's the only way I can get here. I left my house at 9:10, kind of the normal time.
That's not early enough.
All right? And it takes me 32 minutes to get here, so it's still a good time.
No,
I get here, a minute or two ago. It's unbelievable. People
you run into too many potholes and
the potholes. Roads aren't bad. The main roads, the highway people do a good job of keeping the main roads.
All right. That'll do it for the Trevor Report. Now we're here to talk some high school football with you.
And that's another thing, high school football. Teams that I pick to win, then you got to win.
It never fails with New Kent. We'll get to them later on. Ed Young, every time he picks you or picks against you, the opposite happens.
Opposite always happens.
So let's fire it up the scoreboard from last night. High school football action in Hampton Roads here on ESPN Radio 94.1. If you want to chat with us, you can give us a call, 757-687-9494. All morning long, 757-687-9494 here on the program. And HS Sports Talk 941 is your Twitter connect with us on the program. We have a couple of special guests joining us later on. We're scheduled to have Greg Madia. He is the football writer for James Madison for dukesofjmu.com. James Madison taking on Norfolk State today at NSU. And 11:05, we're scheduled to be joined by Leroy Reynolds of the Philadelphia Eagles, linebacker from Maury High School in Norfolk, as the reigning Super Bowl champs beat the Falcons on Thursday night. Thomas a happy camper about that with the Eagles winning. Leroy played for the Falcons last year. And I will also hear in the next segment Dominic Velardi's interview from the High School Football Scoreboard show last night with Corey Hairston of the Warwick Raiders. And why don't we start right there, Ed, as we go to the Peninsula District first. I'll let you choose the next district we go to. The Wascally Warwick Raiders, 16, the Hampton Crabbers, 7. A lot of storylines in this game. Going in, the Crabbers with an interim coach. As you know, Mike Smith with the Virginia retirement rule, having to have a 1-month break from his job that he retired from as Dean of Boys at Hampton High School, so he can't coach until October the 4th. news we broke on Thursday, Ed. Danny Mitchell, who was the interim coach, longtime aide for Mike Smith as an assistant, also the school's head baseball coach, deciding to step aside. So Kenny Gilliam making his head coaching debut. He's been an assistant on the Crabber staff for 30 years. And Hampton had the lead, but Warwick came back 16-7. They win it. Another strong performance from that defense as Warwick is 3-0 for the first time since when? Do you know? If you don't know, I'm going to tell you, but I want to see if you can guess it. When's the last time Warwick started out a season? Oh, you're really close.
Before or after?
Well, you got the last name right.
Marcus Vick.
Marcus, as his one-time coach, now the coach of Lancetown. Tommy Riemann would say Warwick off to a 3-0 start for the first time since 2000 and just the third win since 1965 over the Crabbers. 1965, 2009, and 2018. They get it done. Managed the game well on offense. Did have a lot of yardage, over 300. Tyreek Henderson at the quarterback spot. And the Warwick defense, led by Davon Mead and Damon Davis, stopping the Crabbers 16-7. We warned people on the High School Sports Talk Plus video show Warwick could pull the upset. Neither one of us had the guts to pick it. We did have a few people that did pick the upset, by the way. Give them a shout-out. 3 of them, by the way, in the picks contest. Jeff Maynor, Melissa Hauser, and Brody Doolin, son of former Truckers coach Pat Doolin, called for Warwick to win, and they were right.
Brody Doolin, we got to get him a radio show.
Brody Doolin. We'll get him on. He's going to be a soccer phenom in a few years.
We got to get him on.
So your reaction to the Warwick beating Hampton?
Unbelievable. I thought for about 19 seconds to pick them, but I just thought, no. Then when the coaching change happened, I started thinking, well, maybe. It shouldn't have.
It's funny because I thought the same thing. We turned our picks in on Wednesday, but had we waited till Thursday for the picks, we probably both would have taken Warwick.
I might have.
Yeah. I know I would have. I wasn't on the fence at that point. I had an idea Warwick might win the game then. But I can't say I knew it because I didn't see the coaching thing happening either, so. Coaching change. So Warwick gets a win. They're 3-0. The Newport News School's looking good. Another one of those schools with a victory last night. The Woodside Wolverines shutting out Kickingham 28-0. And it was Heritage in a whale of a ball game coming from behind to beat Gloucester 37-29. A lot of points there. Their game from last Saturday, Ed, against Phoebus at Darling Stadium was suspended in the second quarter. With a little bit over 5 minutes to go. Heritage led Phoebus 6-0, but the Hurricanes bouncing back 37-29, beating Gloucester. They had lost to War Hill in their opener 34-16. So the Hurricanes looking to make some noise, and I think the gap is closing. If there was a substantial gap between the Newport News and the Hampton City Schools for years, the Hampton City Schools have been just dominant. Championships left and right, whether it was Hampton, Phoebus, even Bethel in the early 90s with Dennis Kozlowski at the helm and Allen Iverson starring on the gridiron as well as the hardwood. But a couple of good results there for Warwick and Woodside as well as Heritage.
I agree on that. I think that the more talent right now is in Hampton schools.
So you attribute it to talent, not necessarily coaching?
Well, there's good coaches on both sides. I put a lot of things when it comes to athletics on the performers. Coaching is important, extremely important. But when it comes game day, those kids have to perform. And the more talented you are with hard work ethic, you're usually going to come out on top. Probably that key part there is that work ethic.
All right, so that's what happened in the PD last night. Where are we going to now, sir?
Well, let's go Bay Rivers.
Bay Rivers
Get it out
District.
of the way while I'm in a good mood.
You're in a good mood?
Do the New Kent score first.
New Kent was leading Tab 18-0, but the final score was Tab 20, New Kent 18. As Matt Lawson's Tigers, they right to ship. They come from behind to stun New Kent, which had blanked its season-opening opponent of Colonial Heights 33-0. Tab was coming off the 41-0 loss to Hopewell. Well, those scores were still going the same direction. Tab not having scored, New Kent not giving up a point, and then all of a sudden, boom, just like that, the game changed. I think they had a brief weather delay in that game, if I remember right, from last night, as there were some storms at sort of Richmond, Northern Neck area, and even in Northern Virginia. A lot of games got pushed to today with weather rescheduling them. But there you have it. The Tab Tigers get the victory. Other Bay River scores from last night. War Hill shutting out Grafton 42-0. We need to pay more attention to Thad Wheeler's Lions. Noah Holmes has been a one-man wrecking crew on defense. They have some other very good players too, though. So War Hill getting a win to move to 3-0. Pocosin pitching a shutout 37-0 of the Jamestown Eagles. And Lafayette in sort of the Bay River's highlight game, beating Smithfield on the road 42-6. A couple of interceptions on defense from Zach New, the starting quarterback.
Well, everything else goes according to plan. I looked hard at picking Tab over New Kent only because of the New Kent jinx. But then I just thought, well,
doesn't matter where you pick. It's going the other way.
It doesn't matter. So I may have to take those New Kent games and void them.
What I'm going to do now is let you pick all the New Kent games, and then I'll wait for your pick, and then I'll make my choice. Then I'll just
go opposite.
Continue to increase my lead over you.
But yeah, everybody else looking good. And you're right, War Hill, keep eye on War Hill. Not much love thrown their way, and they're winning good. And of course, Lafayette. We thought they'd be down a little bit.
No, not at all. They beat Norcom impressively the week before. Did have 12 penalties, which I know Andy Lynn's not going to be happy about that, but they continue to run the football with great success. 4 touchdown runs from Demario Tyler to go with Zach New's interceptions on defense, and the Bay Rivers district winning streak is now 52 games for the rolling, rousing Rams of Lafayette High. So the Bay Rivers and the PD are pushed aside now. We got those scores out of the way. Where are we going now? Are we going to the south side, or do you want to throw in some private schools and extras?
No, private schools and extras can go. No, I want to do Eastern District because I'm not seeing any scores. I want to lead off with Lake Taylor.
Well, Lake Taylor plays today. You can't lead off with Lake Taylor.
Dang it.
They play Freedom today.
All right, go Eastern District, Sam.
All right. Matter of fact, since you said what's going on today, we'll tell you about some Saturday games here in just a couple minutes as well. But 2 o'clock, Woodbridge, or Freedom of Woodbridge is taking on Lake Taylor in Norfolk is our game of the week, in fact. The other games today, you got 2 o'clock, Bethel hosting Menchville at Darling Stadium at 2 today. You have Bishop Sullivan in New Jersey against Petty at 2 today. Christ Church is at Nantucket Suffolk Academy at 1, and Greenbrier Christian is at Covenant at 1. But you said Eastern District, you ask, you shall receive. Booker T. Washington, they were down 28-17 to Norcom, but here come the Bookers storming back behind their offensive leader Rodney Hammond, and they win it 31-28 over Norcom. The Greyhounds are suddenly, shockingly, 0-3 after that 7-0 start last year, Ed. Booker T with the comeback, and Norview beating Churchland 39-24. And once again, Ed Young gets bit because he said on the video show, watch out for Norview. They're 0-2. They can beat Churchland, and they do it with a couple of kickoff returns for touchdowns. Marquise Dietz operating the quarterback spot rather well as a sophomore. He's got an offer from Virginia Tech as a wide receiver for a 10th grader, and they hand the Truckers their first loss, 39-24, after Churchland had pitched back-to-back shutouts against Kickingham and Grafton.
Yeah, Churchland's having a good year. Started off really well. We said Norview was going to struggle with the young kids, but they had talent in there. And we even in the summer, I think we said, they'll probably get blown out in a game or two, and then all of a sudden beat somebody with good performance. That happened.
Yeah, and you like the direction Churchland is going under second-year coach Don Sherrill Leonard, Norview with a new coach in Reggie Chavis. But you always worry when a team that hasn't had success coming off 1-9 seasons back-to-back years gets a little bit of notoriety, a little bit of pub, and then they have a game that's against a desperate team like Norview, and the Pilots get the win after those 2 losses to begin the year against Northeastern out of North Carolina, a very good school with an East Carolina commit in Trevion Freshwater, and last week against a powerful Indian River squad that figures to be one of the best in the area and certainly among the Southeastern District teams. So Norview gets a victory in the win column, and now Booker T. Washington at 2-1. A little bit of love for them here as they beat Great Bridge last week, and they've got Wilson coming up next. They get that one. They could be 3-1 when they host a Maury team that's generated plenty of buzz this offseason.
Yeah, it's true. I didn't know, again, which way would Booker T would go. They got some athletes over there, but it's been struggles of the last few years. But once again, high school sports, especially when these youngsters put their minds to something, and again, if they're listening to practice and performing, obviously a lot of good things can happen.
Very true. So the Bookers moving to 2-1 there with that rally against the Greyhounds of IC Norcom out of Portsmouth. Eastern District is pretty much out of the way. We'll give you a couple of out-of-district results to throw in there, too. It was Maury blanking Princess Anne 25-0. Their defense has come to play here. You include the Nansemond River game, they've now gone, I believe, it's at 6 quarters without giving up a point, and they're known for that offensive potency under Coach Doreen McCain with The new quarterback, Alvante Lawton, the wide receiver, and Keandre Lambert, the junior, who picked up an offer from Southern Cal this week. And plenty of wide receiver weapons, Ty Granger, Deshaun Peel, and others. But Sheridan Jones anchoring that defense at the defensive back spot at the corner. They're on an island, the 4-star Clemson commit, and they don't give up anything to PA. Another shutout, but on the other side of it for the Eastern District, Granby gets blanked by Cox 45-0. And no shocker there, Ed, in terms of what Cox did. Tavion Robinson with 240 total yards. He accounts for 5 touchdowns. The Virginia Tech commit, 4-star recruit. Plays wide receiver, defensive back. He also dabbles at running back and quarterback, operating out of the QB spot and safety this year for the Falcons. And Leno Lester, his Robin to Robinson's Batman, adds 140 yards and a couple of touchdowns as Cox. I think they heard you last week when you were talking so much about Ocean Lakes and Salem and Lancetown, and rightfully so. They had a bye week after beating Bayside, and then they put forth a dominant performance against Granby.
45 points, too. They're putting out, back in the day, used to be like ground and pound and win games like 14-7. Now they're putting up 45.
Yeah, different approach there. When you have an athlete like Robinson, it just changes the entire complexion of the game plan and how you defend him, and what Cox can do. It opens up so many avenues because they have some other good weapons around him, and he's certainly a team guy who's spurring the wealth, and Cox gets to 2-0, and their schedule's going to get a little trickier now here as they've got, after the Green Run game, who's winless, Ocean Lakes looming on September the 21st. We'll get to more Beach District games here in just a moment. But one other result we want to pass along involving an Eastern District school, Woodrow Wilson out of Portsmouth, coming off their first win under new coach Dominic Grooms when they beat Lakeland last week, doubling them up 14-7. Well, Wilson was unable to get the win over Deep Creek as the Hornets under coach Andre Twine get the W 29-8 as Deep Creek pushes its mark to 2-0 before they take on Chesapeake rival Western Branch next week at the Hornets' Nest.
Not too much of a surprise here. I kind of looked at Wilson hard to pick him. It was a good win over Lakeland. But Deep Creek just got athletes too, so hats off to obviously Deep Creek on that win.
Yeah, and Aiden Smith on defense with 2 interceptions for the Hornets. He returned 155 yards to pay dirt. And Xavion Evans rushing for 198 yards and 2 scores as the Hornets got that W. Shaheen Cannon, though, stepping up as a big play receiver for Wilson in defeat. 6 catches for 95 yards and a touchdown from QB Nasir Cross. So we've got the Eastern out of the way. That leaves us with the privates and extras, the Beach District, and the Southeastern District. Where are we headed to now, sir?
We're going privates and extra.
Privates and extras. Oh, he gives me a little detour here. Norfolk Academy edging First Flight of North Carolina 41-40 in overtime. You know, First Flight is coached by former Ocean Lakes coach Jim Prince, as Norfolk Academy spoils that return, and they end up with a great performance from Ben Locke. Had a touchdown run. Of course, you look at Norfolk Academy, always known for their powerful running game there, and they get it done in a high-scoring affair, 41-40. Landon Porter with 149 yards for the Bulldogs in that W. Norfolk Christian over at Atlantic Shores, 40-28. Norfolk Christian making some noise despite some key players transferring out. Good to see them having success. Fredericksburg Christian over Isle of Wight Academy, 41-20. Some extras for you. Northampton, 31-13 over Surrey. It was Lancaster blanking Matthews, 24-0. How about King William? They started out 0-5 last year. They're 3-0 this year. 30-6 for the Cavaliers over Essex, who opened the season ranked number 3 in the state in Class 1. Essex now 1-2, surprisingly, because last week, in a game that was picked up on Monday due to weather, Franklin beat them, and the Broncos of Franklin High moved to 3-0. They defeat Colonial Beach 40-26. Quarterback Myron Barrett accounting for 3 touchdowns, and Draylen Ford having one of those long ones. The Old Dominion commit for Franklin, a Class 1 school we got to watch out for.
I think that's a team that, again, you'd say a lot about. Of course, we knew about the Ford kid. Earlier you had him, if I'm not mistaken. We have him in studio?
We did the week you were gone, yes. 40-plus points, 3 consecutive games for Franklin.
That's a lot of points for that. So, again, watch out. And Essex surprising me. 1-2.
1-2. They did play Franklin, and then King William in Class 2 has been putting up a boatload of points. Remember, they beat Bruton and Prince Edward the first 2 games of the year, and they were young a season ago. So they'll get back on track, I think, at some point. They have an Old Dominion commit on their roster, too, in KJ Dameron, the running back who will play defensive end for the Monarchs. So there you have it. Looking at now, Ed, we have left the Beach, the Southeastern. How do we finish up? The Beach District, we told you about Cox shutting out Granby 45-0. We had 2 more shutouts for you. Lansdowne over Kempsville 33-0. And Bayside blanking Green Run 23-0, getting revenge for last year's, we can call it a collapse because they were up 28 points on them. So Bayside gets their first one of the season, Green Run falling to 0-3. Oh, by the way, Lansdowne quietly going about their business. 3-0 on the year for Tommy Reedman's Eagles before they go to Princess Anne next week. We also told you about Princess Anne losing to Maury 25-0. And two other district results of major importance here. Salem holding on for dear life to beat First Colonial 13-7 in one of the closest games of the night. First Colonial had it first and goal at the 8-yard line, but Salem's defense comes up with a stop. The Sun Devils looking to run out the clock, fumble the ball at their own 30. First Colonial unable to do anything with it, and Salem avoids being bit by the upset bug. They win it 13-7 as they gear up for their showdown at Ocean Lakes next week. Well, maybe they were looking ahead to Ocean Lakes, Ed, as the Dolphins win it 49-21 over Tallwood. A big performance for Ocean Lakes and running back Jake Lowe. He had his best game of the year to date. Tallwood with 17 penalties, too many for them as the Dolphins continue to hum offensively. They've now put up 27, 28, 49, their big number on the board against a good Tallwood defense.
Nothing there surprised me except I thought Salem would put more points on the board against First Colonial. So you're right, maybe looking ahead. First Colonial obviously put the ball in the end zone. You know, that Ocean Lakes Tallwood, for a few seconds, I was thinking about Tallwood upset.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why, because we never really give Tallwood, I think, the love they deserve. And
I would agree with that.
Maybe this is they'll rise up on this, but no, Ocean Lakes. I was the old adage, until you lose, you don't lose. That's how I'm gonna look at it.
No, I don't disagree with that at all. And a big night for Jake Lowe, as we said, running the football. Miles Alston also had a couple of touchdown catches from Xander Jedlick, the quarterback. Alston, a sophomore wide receiver for them. The defense may have a little bit of questions to answer here as they get ready for Salem coming up, but ultimately a great performance for Ocean Lakes on offense as they were clicking on all cylinders to win it 49-21 over Tallwood last night. And that'll wrap up the beach. So we go to the Southeastern, where it was all shutouts. In the non-district affair, Colonial Forge pitching a shutout 28-0 of Grassfield. Kings Fork all over Western Branches. It was 40-0 for Kings Fork. Leo Wethington had a big night on the ground for the Bulldogs. Indian River shutting out Lakeland 41-0 as Glenwood Farabee's Braves continued to roll. They led 20-0 at halftime. No real challenge there, nor was it the case of a tough battle for Oscar Smith. The Tigers all over Great Bridge 47-0. They've now beaten Great Bridge 18 straight times. And Nansman River winning over Hickory 28-0 as Kevin Johnson and Kajun Gordon combined for 242 yards and 2 touchdown runs.
All shutout. I wonder if that's ever happened before.
All shutouts.
That's unbelievable.
Well, that tells you there's a gap in the Southeastern District, does it not? Between Oscar Smith, Indian River, Kings Fork, and I'll throw Nansman up there, and then the rest of the district. Those, to me, look like the top four.
You could put Deep Creek in there.
Yes, I want to slight Deep Creek as well.
They gave up some points, obviously.
29-8, that was the one that was not. But concerning all Southeastern District teams playing each other, there was 4 of those games that was shutouts in the Colonial Forge shutting out Grassfield. And Deep Creek did have a tough go with Grassfield the first game of the year. I think they won that 20-15, needed a goal line stand late to hold on. But I'm with you. I think those top 5, yes, those top 5 are very, don't want to forget about Deep Creek. Certainly Oscar Smith, Indian River, Kings Fork, Deep Creek, and Nansman. And now the ordering of them will start to
start playing each other. Now we'll get the order taken care of.
Will start to sort itself out. Nansman has the one blemish as they fell to Maury last week, 16-15 in a game. They were up 15-0 late in the first half. So that'll take care of the scores from Hampton Roads for last night. We'll go through Scoreboard again in the next hour of the program. But when we return, we'll hear Dominic Velardi's chat with Warwick coach Corey Hairston. He told everybody that he would not be surprised if they would go 10-0. Well, he's 30% of the way there, and maybe he knew something that we didn't know.
Who do they got next week?
They got Bethel next week. No disrespect.
4-0.
I think they're going to be
4-0.
Then it gets tricky because then they have the Peninsula District favorite Phoebus. And if they get to 5-0, then they've really done something.
Yeah, wow. Of course, Phoebus won on Thursday night.
No, Phoebus. I'm sorry. Yes, they did over Denby, 54-0. Correct. Thank you for that. And we also have one more Thursday game we got to throw in real fast because we forgot it. Phoebus over Denby, 54-0, and York over Bruton, 56-6. I was thinking you're talking about last week with Heritage. That game got suspended.
Yes,
so Phoebus,
it's not done yet.
Still no makeup on that, and still no makeup date yet on Hampton Denby that got suspended. So, but Phoebus did beat Denby 54-0, and York over Bruton 56-6. We'll hear from Corey Hairston next on ESPN Radio 94.1.
You're listening to High School Sports Talk on ESPN Radio, presented by VirginiaPreps.com. Now back to your hosts, Matt Hatfield and the coach, Ed Young.
Don't forget, coming your way in a little bit, we'll have Greg Madia from the Dukes of JMU.com. Covers James Madison University football. They take on Norfolk State today at NSU. It's a 6 o'clock kick, if I'm not mistaken. And we're also planning to hear from Leroy Reynolds, the Philadelphia Eagles linebacker. They beat the Falcons on Thursday night. Leroy out of Maury High School in Norfolk and the University of Virginia. Every Friday night from 7 to 11, you can hear the High School Football Scoreboard Show with Richie Somerville and his diligent, hardworking crew of reporters. One of them, Dominic Velardi, he was at John B. Todd Stadium in Newport News last night as Warwick notched just their third win over the Hampton Crabbers since 1965. And Dominic caught up with Coach Corey Hairston. We give it a listen now on ESPN Radio 94.1.
Hey, thank you, Richie. Back here at John B. Todd Stadium, I am with the Raider head coach, Corey Hairston, now 3-0 on the season, but at least 1-0 tonight here at John B. Todd, 16-7 victors over the Hampton Crabbers. Coach, congratulations. I saw the amount of jubilation, the amount of enthusiasm, and certainly the amount of love that you just received on the sideline. It's got to be a big night for you.
Yeah, it is a big night. The kids were excited all week. Anytime you play Hampton, Hampton's always going to come in disciplined and prepared, and we were fortunate enough to get the win tonight.
Coach, started off, you went for it. You're a little bit of a gambler. You went for it a few times on fourth down in the first half, just couldn't convert, but two key fourth down conversions in the second half, keeping drives alive for you.
Yeah, the times it was fourth and short, we felt like we could get it. We perfected our game plan all week, and the kids carried it out. And I can't be more proud of them.
And big play in the fourth quarter, probably a turning point for the game. Van Crawford, fumble recovery, and then Dave Meads ripped off the 46-yard touchdown to put this one away.
Yeah, Van is a senior, and he's been really working hard. We've been coaching him up real hard, and he came over the big play, which was awesome for us. That was the key right there. That was a turning point.
Coach, I was up in the press box, Bill Nettles, the legend, and myself talking back and forth. We said, you're reeking and leaking here tonight. Tyreek Henderson, 10 for 18, 141 yards. A little bit of senior leadership. We'll talk about that. Tyleek Ray, meanwhile, 15 carries, 73 yards. Got to be proud of these two.
Oh, yeah. Those two guys, I can't say enough about them. Again, carrying out the offensive game plan to perfection, and is just a blessing tonight. We're just very proud of them.
Coach, Dave Mead, you kind of had him a little bit on the shelf first half. Actually didn't have any carries at all. 8 carries, 74 yards, and the 2 touchdowns. However, big return for him in the second half tonight.
Yeah, according to our game plan, we kept him on the shelf, like you said, the first half, but he came up big in that second half, and he delivered when we needed him to. So proud of him.
And speaking of big performances second half, your defense, Raider tough.
Yeah. Those kids, they all the kids work hard, but the defense really stepped up when we needed them to, and we were fortunate to shut them down in a couple areas. So just very proud of them. Whole total team effort, very proud of them.
Coach, so far 3-0 for the year. Are you exceeding those lofty expectations you may have had at the beginning of the year?
No, we're going everything according to game plan. God is awesome, and he's blessing us right now.
He certainly is tonight, at least. 3-0 on the season so far. Bethel coming up next week, but let's enjoy this one. Final here, John B. Todd Stadium. Raiders 16, Hampton 7. On behalf of Corey Hairston, I'm Dominic Velardi, ESPN.
All right, we thank Dominic for that as Warwick beats Hampton by a count of 16-7. That was Dominic Velardi with Coach Corey Hairston of the 3-0 Raiders on the high school football scoreboard show. Again, you hear that every Friday night, 7 to 11 with Richie Somerville here on ESPN Radio 94.1. Ed, before we go to the phones, in 757-687-9494, we'll get you in here. 3-0, they got Bethel next, then Phoebus and Woodside. But certainly now we have to talk about Warwick, although people say playoffs, it's only September, as a team that can not only make the postseason, but if they keep this up in a Class 5 Region A picture where you have the likes of Indian River and you have Maury, and you have Salem, who's unbeaten right now. Warwick, if they get to 7-8 wins, they could be talking about hosting a first-round playoff game, let alone making it after 1-9 last year. They could be hosting in the first round.
You're right. It's early, but then again, as things shape out, this is a team, Coach Hairston made a bold statement. We looking to go 10-0, which some people scoffed at, but what is the coach supposed to say? We plan on losing tons of games. But the problem with that is getting everybody on that right page. It is conceivable you can win every one of your games in any sport, but so many things got to go along those lines to do that other than just having talent.
Very true, and they've looked very good so far. Let's go to the phones at 757-687-9494. Let's talk to Billy in Suffolk. You're on ESPN Radio, Billy.
Morning, guys. How y'all doing?
Morning, Bill.
Good. Lots of great games last night. I got something to say that I love your show. Always listen to it when I can. Love it very much. Y'all do a great job. Y'all very knowledgeable. And not to open Pandora's box, I just have a question.
Okay.
I know how y'all feel about students transferring from one school to another. It's kind of for athletics, but it happens all the time. And but I never hear y'all bring it up to the coaches of some of these big schools that y'all have interviews with. And they definitely have transfers coming in and out, And I just wonder why, if y'all so passionate about transfers for sports reasons, why is it never really brought up to the coaches? But I'll take it off the air.
That's simple, Bill. That's a simple answer.
Okay. You're a coach.
If Billy says to me, I'll use me so other coaches get stepped on. Coach Young, you've got 8 kids on your roster from other schools. How's this all? I'm going to take offense to it because he's going to act like he's insinuating that I'm inciting kids to transfer to my school. No coach is going to come right out and say, oh, yeah, we got him illegal and he really don't live in our zone and he's living with his aunt over in here and we did it the right way. That's how we got. The bottom line is this on the transfers. If it's approved by the school and the VHL and whatever, it's a no question. It's done with. It's just how it is. Though we know in some situations, not all transfers are done on the up and up. Yeah, I said it, and I said it out loud, and that's the way it is. But, I'm not going to get into a long debate about the transfer stuff. It is what it is, and I'm one of these coaches that's open for a proponent for open enrollment.
Well, I don't know how it's opening Pandora's box, as we said last week, but I think he's somewhat right on that, somewhat not completely accurate, because we have brought it up before. But what we generally get when we do bring it up, which is seldom, I would admit we don't bring it up very often, is you're going to get no comment or you're going to get the token generic answer. You're not going to get anything that's earth-shattering. You're not going to get anything. That's essentially, I wouldn't go into the NFL realm of saying it's like asking Tom Brady about Spygate or deflated footballs or asking baseball players about steroids or something of that nature. But I would say that they're not going to give you anything that really addresses it.
Right. And again,
so it's almost a waste of time in a sense.
And maybe if Billy's thinking, well, if these coaches are getting players that are illegal, why don't they admit to it? Nobody's going to admit to anything of that nature. And I'm not saying it's rampant illegal out there and whatever. Come on now. But we do know some things behind the scenes. And I'll leave it at that.
When we return, we'll chat with Greg Madia of the Dukes of JMU.com on the Rivals Network and football beat writer for the James Madison Dukes at the Daily News Record right here on ESPN Radio 94.1.
You're listening to High School Sports Talk on ESPN Radio, presented by VirginiaPreps.com. Now back to your hosts, Matt Hatfield and the coach, Ed Young.
Back here on the program, we have a special guest. He is the James Madison University football beat writer at the Daily News Record, which you can also read on the Rivals Network at dukesofjmu.com. We'll say good morning now to our good friend Greg Madia. Greg, how's life treating you?
I'm doing well. On my way down to the 757 area for JMU Norfolk State today. About just got past Richmond, so the drive is going well. How are you guys doing?
Not too bad. We appreciate you coming on the program this morning. Of course, Norfolk State and James Madison kick it off at 6 o'clock today at NSU. Good matchup with a lot of Virginia flavor and, of course, 757 area code flavor, which we'll get to in a moment. But 24-13, James Madison lost at NC State last week. Didn't get the big, giant FBS upset, which they've had before, and some other high-level FCS and 1AA, if you want to call them, programs have had. What was your takeaways from that game before we get to the Norfolk State matchup today? What was your takeaways from the JMU Norfolk NC State game as they head into this one?
Yeah, Matt, I think the first thing is that they broke in 10 new starters on defense. They lost, a ton of really good players from last year's group. If you look back, Raven Green, Jordan Brown, 2 All-American safeties, in addition to Andrew Ankra, the defensive end, who was the Colonial Athletic Association Player of the Year, and Defensive Player of the Year in 2017. And then, they get to game week and they find out Rashad Robinson, their All-American returning cornerback, is going to be out for the year with a turf toe injury, had surgery last week. So with all that said, they had to break in 10 new starters on defense. And I thought the defense really held up well against a North Carolina State offense with some pretty good weapons, including Ryan Finley, who will be likely one of the top quarterbacks taken in this year's draft, or next year's draft, rather. I thought pretty good day for the defense, holding NC State to 2.9 yards per carry. That was good. I think what happened late was that they had some breakdowns and they got worn down a little bit toward the end of the game. But all in all, a really good day considering that defense was breaking in 10 new starters and really it's a new look group. It's a different unit with a lot of young players involved. Offensively, Ben DiNucci, the Pittsburgh transfer quarterback, it kind of looked like a seamless transition. They stubbed their toe in the red zone a few times, 5 red zone trips and only 13 points to show for it. But he moved the ball. He helped that offense move the ball very well and kind of showed that there is some life after Brian Shore.
Hey, Greg, Ed Young here. That's what I wanted to kind of zero in on. Obviously, the heart of any team is in terms of one person, is the quarterback. With a group like James Madison, who's really well-rounded in everything, what was his impact going to be for James Madison, as you just mentioned, like that seamless transition, so they look already comfortable after game one with him?
Yeah, I think it's his ability to extend plays, and it was something Brian Shore was so good at last year and the year before. As he guided JMU to back-to-back national championship games. DiNucci is probably a little bit faster. I don't know if he knows the offense as well. I don't think he knows the offense as well as Shore did quite yet. But he showed against NC State, which paid a couple of times for pass rushing and really trying to get after DiNucci. DiNucci showed that he could break the pocket and get up the field and make the opponent pay. And I think that's huge for JMU. They have a good offensive line. It's a young group, and then you throw in his ability to escape. Defenses should have a very difficult time getting to the quarterback for sacks this year against JMU. I think that is a real asset and a real attribute for DiNucci that helps this offense. And you throw in what he can do in the running game along with their running backs that I know struggled a little bit last week, but I think you look at Marcus Marshall and Cardin Johnson, the Warwick alum, and Trey Sharp as well. Those three should be fine in helping that run game go. And I think it all starts with DiNucci, though.
And then conversely, in this game, on the other side, under center, Norfolk State's starting a true freshman at quarterback. Regular quarterback has been suspended. There's a young man that only has 4 passes thrown from last year. Now he's going to have the task of going against a very good, solid JMU defense. Do you kind of obviously, in looking at the game, look at both quarterbacks and kind of have an idea where this one's going to go?
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at last year's game, and it was kind of the same situation. Norfolk State was breaking in a freshman quarterback, and now Jawan Carter, who's a sophomore now, is suspended for this one after being ejected last week. And DeAndre Thomas, who will play quarterback for Norfolk State today, I think he's going to have a tough time. James Madison is going to throw different blitzes, different looks at him. And I know he had the spring there with the Spartans, is what Latrell Scott, the Norfolk State coach, told me earlier this week. But I still think that's a pretty tall task, a pretty big ask for Norfolk State to have their quarterback. He does have some nice weapons around him, Aaron Savage, the running back, but you better believe, and James Madison made a living off of beating up young quarterbacks last year, did it against Maine, did it against Norfolk State, did it against some others in the CAA, Villanova last year. And I have a feeling Bob Trott and that group will be ready to go, especially after losing last week. And this is a team for a group that's won a lot of football games. They've lost 2 straight now. If you look back at the national championship and last week at NC State, they're going to be pinning their ears back and ready to go after this freshman quarterback.
Certainly Mike Houston not a happy camper when he loses a couple of games because he's done such an outstanding job there. We're chatting with Greg Madia of the Daily News Record and dukesofjmu.com on the Rivals Network here on High School Sports Talk presented by VirginiaPreps.com on ESPN Radio 94.1. As the Dukes of JMU visit Norfolk State today, the Spartans at 6 o'clock. We're chatting with him about the matchup here on ESPN Radio 94.1. And last year it was 75-14. We've touched on how some pieces are different. Of course, new quarterbacks and Raven Green, an All-American safety from First Colonial in Virginia Beach, made the Green Bay Packers roster. He's no longer on the JMU defense. But there is a lot of local flavor, Greg, on this roster for JMU. I know you got a nice story on some of those players. You caught up with Cardon Johnson from Warwick, the running back, 6th year of his college career, finally gets to play in the 757 area code. Fill us in on how some of the local guys, Johnson and others, such as Wayne Davis, Tucker Dorsey, are looking so far.
Yeah, I know. I know they're all excited, and for you look at those local guys, and they all have kind of an impact on this team. They're all a pretty big part of this team. Johnson coming off of back-to-back seasons where he had Achilles injuries that ended his 2016 and 2017 short. He's told me he's feeling really good. He's about as healthy as he's been in a couple of years. And for JMU, the biggest thing with Johnson is just to make sure he's able to get through a full season and finish his college career, kind of on a high note after he's had to rehab and work back time and time again from those Achilles problems. Some other guys, Wayne Davis, he's JMU's starting nickel corner. He's been kind of thrust into that starting lineup because of the injury to Robinson and some other injuries in the secondary. Curtis Oliver, Charles Tutt, those guys have been banged up, so it's allowed Wayne Davis, the Ohio State transfer, to get on the field right away and then start for James Madison. And he's been good. And Mike Houston, he told me, Wayne Davis can play nickel corner, he can play true corner, he can play both safety spots. So they like his versatility, and they like what he brings to the table just as far as being able to play multiple positions go. Keyshawn Moore, who's from down there too, he's their starting linebacker with Landon Word, the Virginia transfer, sidelined with an upper extremity injury. He had a great first week last week at NC State, 8 tackles and 1 tackle for loss. He's really come on strong and been a very nice piece for them this year early on as a redshirt freshman. Tucker Dorsey, Diamante Tucker Dorsey, Wayne Davis' high school teammate down from Lake Taylor. He's in the mix on special teams. You'll see him on a bunch of special teams tonight against Norfolk State, and depending on how the game goes, you could see him at linebacker as well. So plenty of local guys making an impact. Cole Johnson, he was in that quarterback competition with Danucci all the way into that first game week last week, and just came up on the short end. I think he's a very solid backup quarterback for James Madison, and he could probably start a lot of places if he wanted to.
Hey, Greg, question. We're talking about players from the area on both these teams from the state. When you look at this game today, is there more for JMU and to lose, or is there more for NC State or Norfolk State to gain if they get a win?
I think that there's more for James Madison to lose. This is a game they won. And they won this game 75-14 last year, and I think if they don't win by at least 4 or 5 touchdowns, there's probably something wrong. I do think the game will be better than it was last year, just because Norfolk State is a little older now, a little bit more experienced. They won last week against Virginia State, and they're coming off with a little bit of momentum. But there's certainly more to lose if you're JMU playing this game. If you come up short for some reason, would be very surprised, and would be a big shocker in terms of FCS football nationally if James Madison doesn't leave there with a win tonight.
You can follow him on Twitter at Madia, MADIA_DNR Sports. He's Greg Madia with the dukesofjmu.com on the rivals.com network of sites, and also with the Daily News Record. Greg, thanks so much for the time today, and I'll maybe see you there over later today, all right?
All right, sounds good, Matt, and thanks for having me on, guys.
You got it.
Thanks, Greg.
It's Greg Madia with us here on ESPN Radio 94.1. I'm going to try to make it over there later today if the weather is cooperative, which sometimes it can be Mother Nature. The last 4 games I've been to in person, I watched some games on the computer last night. I've had rain/lightning/delays. So I don't know if I'm going to jinx it later today with Lake Taylor Freedom and Norfolk State James Madison. So I'm like, well, maybe I'll see him, maybe I won't.
You probably will.
Don't know what to do.
My weather report has no rain. We're going to have a great
your weather report has no snow when we have 2 feet of snow. Your weather report has sunshine when it's cloudy.
Well, I'm going to say this, and I know I'm right. There's no way. Matter of fact, I'll make a bold statement.
Don't. Please. Cut his mic off, Thomas.
There's
stick to the traffic reports, not the weather reports. There's no way it's going to snow between now and January. I'm going to slap you upside the head.
There will be no snow between now and January 1st. That is a guarantee.
Yes, wrong. You're absolutely wrong.
We'll let that guy in this place.
Get me a shovel so I can knock him upside the head with a shovel, and he can shovel the snow when it does come.
Those are odds you can use at Vegas. There will be no snow in Hampton Roads until after January 1st. I would take those odds easy.
Look, stick to the traffic reports. Don't start mixing weather. You're doing good enough with traffic.
Can you imagine if we're driving like this on a nice 80-degree day, what it's going to be like when the snow comes?
I don't want you on the roads. You should just Uber or Lyft here. All right, when we come back, we're scheduled to chat with Leroy Reynolds. He's a linebacker with the NFL's Philadelphia Eagles out of Maury High School and the University of Virginia. And if he is so kind, we might let him pick some college football games today. We won't do rapid fire or fact or fiction. We might let him pick some college football games to see if he can help me out of my doldrums of a 3-3 week and 1-5 against the spread in our picks. As you beat me last week, courtesy of Notre Dame defeating Michigan. I'm not picking Michigan again the rest of the year.
Where I'm surprised is because I never do well in it because I really don't care about it. I did well against the spread.
Yeah, you were like 5-1.
5-1.
You were really good.
I got to start going to Vegas on
No, don't do that. All right, when we come back, we'll hopefully talk with Leroy Reynolds. That's coming your way right here on your home for sports. What is it?
ESPN Radio 94.1.
You're listening to High School Sports Talk on ESPN Radio, presented by VirginiaPreps.com. Now back to your hosts, Matt Hatfield and the coach, Ed Young.
Yeah, we welcome everybody back here to High School Sports Talk here Saturday morning, brought to you by VirginiaPreps.com, your source of information. Anything dealing with high school, go to VirginiaPreps.com. The owner, the CEO, and the everything about preps, Matt Hatfield, is being revived right now. Definitely not by me. We had a sign here in the studio, just kind of lost a tack and it fell. And we're trying to get him out of the ceiling right now. Hatfield went to the ceiling, and we had a custodian come in here and try to pull him down from the seating because it scared him unbelievable. I wasn't scared by the sign. I thought maybe he was having a heart attack. That's what scared me.
I'm all right now.
Are you okay? You're back?
Thomas threw some water, and we got one of the ladies in the back doing CPR, and I'm good.
The sign barely did anything. It's a little piece of plastic. It scared the living
daylights out of me.
And you went flying.
I thought we had a mummy in here.
And you, who takes care of little kids, should not be alarmed by something of that out of the ordinary.
Well, trust me, when you've been hit in the head by a magnifying glass, you are dodging all flying objects.
I'm saying but it wasn't near you. It wasn't near me.
Yeah, exactly. It's not new to me. It's new to you. We're efforting Leroy Reynolds of the Philadelphia Eagles. Hopefully get to him in just a little bit from Maury High School in Norfolk and the University of Virginia. But we'll go back to our scoreboard now as we fire it up from the games around Hampton Roads last night. If you want to chime in about the game, 757-687-9494. We'll get you in here. Give us a call at 757-687-9494. We haven't heard from Keith yet. Where's Keith? I know Smithfield had a tough loss last night.
He slept in.
He did again. He's sleeping into 11. Well, let's go backwards to forwards because last time we started with the Peninsula and Bay Rivers. Why don't we start with the Southeastern and the beach? You cool with that?
Let's go backwards.
Let's go backwards.
See if you remember the order.
I think we finished with Southeastern, right? SED?
I ain't going to say a word.
You can say a word. Well, you have to say a word. Otherwise, I'll do all the talking.
All right, go ahead. You want to start Southeastern, and you are correct. That's what we finished with.
All right, Kings Fork 40, Western Branch 0. Not a point on the board for Western Branch, and the Bulldogs looking rather sharp. A lot of bite in them. We hear all about Oscar Smith and Indian River, and understandably so. Those are two powerhouses. Oscar Smith, they've been in the state championship the last 3 years. Indian River looks like one of the best teams in Class 5. Those two teams have obliterated their first two foes, but Kings Fork is the one that snapped that 99-game Southeastern District winning streak last year, and Ed, Hickory, at Grassfield, Nansemond River, Great Bridge, their upcoming games before they have to deal with Indian River on the road on October the 12th. And there's a very distinct chance Scotty Littles and the Bulldogs are 6-0 on the campaign by then.
I can see it. Kings Fork, again, that's another team I think sometimes we don't really give enough just dues to. That they've got the athletes out there. Scotty's done a good job with that program on the heels of Joe Jones, who did a fantastic job with him, and now over at Ocean Lake.
Absolutely. Coach Little's in year 3 at the helm, trying to keep the Bulldogs relevant and a factor in Class 4, which I think they look to be. All right, so the Kings Fork Bulldogs pitch a shutout. So does Indian River, 41-0 over Lakeland. No shocker there, as the Braves were humming, and that defensive line led by Ben Smiley, Kenai Crite, Lynn Corey, Lucas, Cameron Hunter, the younger brother of Virginia Tech's Devin Hunter, looking mighty fine. Another defense looking rather sharp. Oscar Smith, they get an interception from Malcolm Britt, and the Tigers pitch a shutout, 47-0 of Great Bridge. They've now beaten Great Bridge 18 consecutive times. The Wildcats got inside the 10 twice in the first half, but they came up empty both times. So the Tigers continue to purr. See what I did there? They purr. Nansemond River shutting out Hickory 28-0 despite 17 penalties. Kevin Johnson and Kajon Gordon combining for 242 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns.
No surprise there. Going back to your comment, these Tigers don't want to purr. They were roaring.
Oh, roar.
Yeah, they roared.
Well, I think they got a bigger roar coming, though. 47-0. That's it's just a routine game for them. They're waiting for a big one coming up.
So they yawned.
Well, they yawned. That wasn't a yawn. You say it was a 47-0 yawner? Is that what you're implying?
That was
all right. Well, regardless, Scott Johnson will take it, and so will his team. They're 2-0. Nansemond River getting back in the win column. Important there against Hickory. That's always a dangerous game when you lose a big lead. Then you play a team that's not expected to be one of the powers, and they went to Hickory and took care of business, though. The penalties will stick in his craw for a little while. Justin Kiner's getting his first win as the head man.
Yeah, congrats to Justin on that, and that'll get cleaned up quick enough. And again, there was a sour taste. Kids were down this week in school. They were down, but they were up, and they understood that some of the mistakes they made in that second half cost them. No, you can't do it against good teams. And like I told a couple of fellas, I said, you might have a chance to fix that later, because you could see more if both get into the playoffs.
Very true. And they got Lakeland, their Suffolk rival, coming up at home this Friday, and then their schedule gets really, really tough. At Indian River, at Kings Fork, Oscar Smith. That's the gauntlet awaiting the Warriors if they're able to beat Lakeland and move to 2-1. And if you're not careful, that can go from 2-1 to 2-4 in a hurry with those teams on the docket. And a couple other teams in the out-of-district matchups, if you will. Deep Creek winning 29-8 over Wilson. We highlighted it earlier. Aiden Smith had a couple of interceptions. And Xavion Evans running for 198 yards and 2 touchdowns. Remember, they lost Damian Everett last year, but this Evans kid looks to be the part there, carrying the football, toting it for Coach Andre Twine. And Colonial Ford shutting out Grassfield 28-0. It doesn't get any easier for Grassfield. They have Oscar Smith and Kings Fork next.
That's rough. As the team is kind of rebuilding, putting some pieces back together after the program has been good. It's got a lot of young guys. And, you come off some tough losses. You can't put the ball in the end zone. And you're playing those powerhouses. Not easy.
Over in the Beach District, Bayside winning 23-0 over Green Run. They got touchdowns early on from Cameron LeBourne and Tajay Pollard. Dejon Bowman punching it in from a couple yards out. And the Marlins pitch a shutout 23-0 over Green Run, who beat them last year in a wild, zany comeback. Ocean Lakes all over Tallwood, 49-21. Jake Lowe runs for 153 yards and 2 touchdowns. Xander Jedlick hooks up twice with Miles Austin through the air for touchdowns as the Dolphins pile up 394 yards to beat Tallwood in a game that was 7-7 with 5 minutes to go in the second quarter, but the Dolphins got 2 touchdowns before the half to take a 20-7 lead, and really from there, Tallwood was playing catch-up the rest of the night as the Lions were able to actually gain 313 yards of offense, but could not get the stops they needed against an Ocean Lakes team that ran for 288, threw for 106, did not turn the football over. So the Dolphins next week will take on a fellow unbeaten in Salem, 13-7. The Sun Devils beat First Colonial, but they had to struggle to do it. 168 yards rushing, a touchdown for Kalen Black. They outgained FC just 304-276, and the Patriots had the ball inside the 10 late. Got stopped on fourth down, so Salem survives the upset bid of FC. Sun Devils 13, Patriots 7. Lansdowne blinking Kempsville 33-0 as Tommy Reeman's Eagles continue to roll. They're 3-0. They have, not too far off in the distance, Ocean Lakes there at the end of the month of September, and 5 sacks combined by Denzel Lowry and Elijah Rainey as that Lansdowne defense flexed its muscles. Princess Anne coming up short against Maury 25-0, and Cox all over Granby 45-0 as the Tavion Robinson-Leno Lester dynamic duo led the way for Bill Stachelski's Falcons.
Yeah, again, not a whole lot of surprises there. Ocean Lakes Tallwood, as I told you before, I thought for a few seconds every week when I pick games, I try to see what's a crazy upset to pick, and I looked at Tallwood, but I stayed with Ocean Lakes. But again, they gave a game for at least a quarter and a half.
They did, and you got Ocean Lakes with a lot of important matchups upcoming, Ed, as they take on Salem next. Then it's at Cox, then Lansdowne. So they're really in the meat and potatoes, the teeth of their schedule on the beach. And Bayside avoids falling to 0-3. One team that didn't avoid falling to 0-3, the Norcom Greyhounds. They lose a lead late, 31-28. Booker T. Washington comes from behind to beat Norcom in Portsmouth, and it was Rodney Hammond running for 195 yards and a touchdown. Norcom took the lead on Karan Prunty's 87-yard kickoff return, but the Bookers had enough offense against Norcom, who has now given up defensively in the last 2 games after being so stingy defensively. 80 points to Lafayette and Booker T as they're searching for answers on both sides of the ball. They're 0-3, and they go to Granby next week, who we mentioned lost to Cox 45-0. Other Eastern District results, it was Norview over Churchland 39-24 as the Pilots got a strong game from quarterback Marquise Dietz. Couple of kickoff returns for touchdowns, and Katron Allen, the freshman tailback, ran for over 100 yards and 2 scores as Reggie Chavis gets his first win as the Pilots' head man. Also in the Eastern District, out-of-district results for them, it was Woodrow Wilson of Portsmouth falling to Deep Creek 29-8, as we touched on earlier. So there you have it. Lake Taylor in action today at 2 o'clock at home against Freedom. I took Freedom close, 34-28. You went with the Titans to avenge last year's big loss up in Woodbridge.
Yeah, I got to feel that they're going to be riled for this ball game, and it is in Norfolk, so that makes a little bit of a difference. And I think Lake Taylor will beat a very good Freedom team.
58-7 last year. Freedom thumped Lake Taylor, the worst loss in Titans history. Only other team to score 58 was GW Danville back in 1982, but 2 of the best in the state. Lake Taylor is ranked number 3 in the state in Class 4. Freedom is number 6 in Class 6, and Freedom without its best defensive back in Jason Hawkins, who was ejected in last week's win over Stonewall Jackson, so they'll be missing him. Meanwhile, Lake Taylor's best defensive back, Javon Harvey, made news this week as he decommitted from Old Dominion. He's reopened his recruitment, still considering the Monarchs, but he's going to weigh all of his options before signing day, and there's 2 signing days, December and February, so we'll monitor where Javon Harvey ends up at the next level. He's one of the best in the area, playing wide receiver, defensive back, even sometimes at quarterback for Hank Sawyer's crew. All right, so we got the Southeastern, the Beach, the Eastern out of the way. We went to the privates and the extras last time, didn't we? Oh.
Yeah, we put them right there in the middle.
My memory's sharp sometimes. Sometimes it's not, sometimes it is. The extras, King William over Essex 30-6. King William is 3-0. Lancaster shutting out Matthews 24-0 as they recover from the tough overtime loss to Sussex Central their previous game. Franklin, they're 3-0 as well. They beat Colonial Beach 40-26. And Northampton over Surrey County 31-13. In private school action, it was Fredericksburg Christian 41, Isle of Wight Academy 20. How about Norfolk Christian, the Ambassadors? They're doing well, 40-28 over Atlantic Shores. And in the game of the night for private schools, Norfolk Academy 41, First Flight 40 in overtime. Jim Prince, the former Ocean Lakes coach, unable to get the W against a 7-5-7 team, as it ended up being Drew Duffy throwing for 193 yards and a touchdown to lead the Bulldogs past First Flight. We need to pay a little more attention to Steve Moniger and the Bulldogs, right? Norfolk Academy looking good.
I like the idea of Norfolk Christian because didn't they lose a ton of players?
They did.
And program was not Did they play last year or was it the year before?
It was the year before they didn't play. Remember, they lost Lamarion James to Indian River.
And before that, they had a ton of great players.
They did. That Fab Four with Quanti Moore, Mario Nixon, and Courtney Wynn, and I'm forgetting the other one. Will Wahi. So, but they just won last week. Who did they beat? I believe it was Blue Ridge. They beat Blue Ridge, I want to say, coming from behind, or was it North Cross? I'm drawing a blank on who they beat. Regardless, they're 2-1 and looking pretty sharp. They recovered from that season opening loss to Bishop Sullivan, who will be in action later today at 2 o'clock up in New Jersey against Petty, a known powerhouse nationally. Greenbrier Christians at Covenant at 1 o'clock today, so there's a couple more private school games on the docket, as well as Christ Church at Nansman Suffolk Academy at 1 p.m. Mike Beal's Saints have been looking really, really sharp offensively here as of late. All right, so now we go to the other side of the water, through the tunnel. It takes about 3.5 hours, 4 hours on a busy day. Bay Rivers District, Lafayette over Smithfield 42-6. DeMario Tyler 4 touchdown runs. Zach New, the quarterback, with 2 interceptions on defense, and the Rams continue to pile up points as the Packers drop to 0-2 under their new coach, Coach Mike Newhall. Pocosin blanking Jamestown 37-0. War Hill 42-0 over Grafton. When do Pocosin and War Hill play each other? Of course, we want to know when Pocosin and Lafayette play. That's in late October. But Pocosin War Hill not too far off in the distance at Pocosin Middle, September the 28th. Be there or be square. And don't be rectangular or triangle, be square. And Tab coming from behind, much to the dismay of Ed Young as he picked New Kent. New Kent was up 18-0, and then somebody informed New Kent Ed Young picked them, and they stopped playing. And Tab got fired up and came back and won. 20 for Tab, 18 for New Kent. Another one bites the dust when it comes to Ed Young and his New Kent picks.
Not another one. It's me. Every time, no matter which one, it goes the other way. It has to be, I'd say 90% of the time.
It's unbelievable. I think every game, just about except one last year, you obviously picked Lafayette to beat them, and they did. But every other game, just about, you were wrong off of them. It's really remarkable.
And I'm picking New Kent to win games, too. It's not like I'm against them.
You haven't been against them. You were at first. They started winning, then you started picking them, and they started losing. You're a jinx with them.
I said I might have to take their game off the board.
Well, they have Bruton next week, and Bruton's struggling mightily.
Well, Bruton, they're down in numbers. They're only playing a limited amount of games. I'm going with New Kent.
Bruton lost on Thursday night to York 56-6, and that's another team. We mentioned Lansdowne on the Beach. Nobody's talking enough about them. Doug Pereira's Falcons brought back a lot on defense. Ramsey Hyatt at quarterback. Luke Gatz catching the ball. Good mixture of running backs. Treat Cartwright making plays defensively. Special teams. They're 2-0. They have Tab next, and Tab's on that high of that comeback, and then they have Smithfield. I'm looking at York's schedule, and I'm thinking, this is no knock. The team's upcoming. They could be 5-0 when they go to Lafayette October the 4th.
And that game could be very interesting.
Yeah.
If anybody's going to give Lafayette the battle or knock them off, I'd say York, possibly Pocosin.
Well, and Pocosin would be the first one of my choice, but before Lafayette became the kings of the district, really, you had York running it with Ben Edwards, that run Doug Pereira had with him as the quarterback, the do-everything player there for them. So we'll see what York can do. They did get to the region championship last year in Region 3A, which was them falling to Hopewell. But, with Phoebus, Norcom last year, some uncertainty with some of those teams this year. Maybe York's got a run in them again in Class 3 in the postseason. We do have them ranked number 6 now in the state in Class 3, which is kind of wide open in a sense. So that covers the Bay Rivers District, I think. Didn't miss any scores there. And now the Peninsula. It was Woodside shutting out Kickintan 28-0. Heritage, Darius Price and that offense, they were clicking 37-29 over Gloucester. Gloucester has shown some fight in them offensively. Even though the Dukes are 0-3, they have put up an average in those losses to Woodside, York, and Heritage of 23.3 points per game. So just got to fix some things defensively right now for them. And it was the big story of the night, the big score of the night, Warwick over Hampton, 16-7 as the Raiders, they moved to 3-0 under Coach Corey Hairston. The Crabbers dropped their first official game. They had the game with Denby suspended. New coach Kenny Gilliam on an interim tag until Mike Smith returns in October. Kenny Gilliam taking over for Danny Mitchell, who decided to step aside this week. And Warwick now the surprise of the year through 3 games. It's only 3 games. Long way to go. We were looking like Churchland was that team last week. I think it's Warwick now.
Yeah, based on the fact they're undefeated and Churchland just got a loss. That's that's who I would go for surprise is Warwick.
And doing it with a mixture. No one real marquee stud prospect or stud next-level recruit on that team. Davod Mead's very good, and they have a bunch of other skill position players that are stepping up. Tyleek Henderson, the quarterback spot. But Warwick's got Bethel next, and I think they have a great chance to be 4-0 when they take on Phoebus, which is on September the 20th. So that'll wrap up the scores from last night in high school football in Hampton Roads and around Virginia. If you want to see more scores, go to our ESPN Radio 941 Twitter account, the Facebook page, all that good stuff, and VirginiaPreps.com with the state scores, as we've got all those scores up there. Let's go to the phones at 757-687-9494. Give us a call at 757-687-9494 and chat with, he's now wide awake, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, the one and only Keith from Smithfield. Keith, how you doing?
How you doing, man? How you doing? How you doing this morning?
We're okay. The key is, are you okay?
I'm okay. We're alive. I just woke up just a couple minutes ago.
I didn't catch that. Repeat that.
He just woke up.
Just a couple minutes ago.
Okay.
Keith, you sure you're wide awake?
Yeah, I'm trying to get wide awake. I just woke up and we had 2 busy week this week. Had 2 games. JV played Thursday night and we Varsity State last night.
Well, that generally is the case. JV plays before varsity. You sound a little groggier than more bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. So I hope you're not too down in the dumps.
Hey,
the Packers can get this turned around now.
Did you eat your Wheaties?
No, ain't no Wheaties yet. Ain't no breakfast. Not yet. Ain't breakfast yet.
Did you say roughage?
I ain't no breakfast yet.
Oh, breakfast. Okay, breakfast. I thought he
He's
said
going to get
roughage.
some roughage in his breakfast.
I just got up.
All right, stay away from the sausage and the bacon. Get some Wheaties, Keith.
Yes, I got to watch the bacon and sausage. So my cholesterol might go up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Stick with the Wheaties and orange juice, and you'll be all right.
All right, I want to know, Keith, before we let you roll, anything else you got on the docket today, Keith? What is your Super Bowl prediction? I know you got to have a pick as the NFL season is underway. 1 game in the books with the Eagles beating the Falcons on a Thursday night. Who's your pick in the NFC and AFC, and who wins it? You got a Super Bowl pick for us?
Cowboys.
Cowboys.
I'm a Cowboy fan. I'm looking at. They might not make it.
No, I don't think they will.
I think Pittsburgh can come out the AFC, can get to the Super Bowl, and it might be Pittsburgh and Green Bay.
Pittsburgh and Green Bay, and who wins it?
I think I'm moving for Mike Tomlin to pull it out.
All right.
Pittsburgh.
Local guy, Denby High School, William and Mary, Newport News native there, and they're going to need Le'Veon Bell back by then. That's murky situation.
They need him back bad. They need him on running back. He got a good running game. He got good guys can fill the hole up before he get back.
Well, they take on it's the Browns, right? Tyrod Taylor and the Browns coming up.
Yes, sir. Tyrod
Hampton High
playing tomorrow night, Sunday, and I'm gonna be watching that game.
All right, you and a lot of locals will, because there's a ton of Steelers fans in the area. There's a lot of Tyrod Taylor supporters in the area. I'm coming from Hampton High and Virginia Tech.
Yes, sir. I got 2 things before we get up there.
What you got?
My local guy from Smithfield, he will be in the game. You'll see him today. Willard Drew from Smithfield. He be with James Madison today.
That's right. Another local guy we touched on, Carlon Johnson from Warwick High School, Newport News, the Lake Taylor dynamic duo of Diamante Tucker Dorsey and Wayne Davis, the backup quarterback from Cox, and Cole Johnson, and Keyshawn Moore starting at linebacker from Mansman Suffolk Academy. But Willie Drew is, I think he's the next Raven Green, Keith. And as I mentioned earlier, Raven Green out of First Colonial. He's now with the Packers. We're going to look to get him on the station here soon. I tell you what, watch out for Willie Drew. He's going to have a chance to be a big-time player for them sooner than later. Yes,
sir. Willie is a great athlete, man. He's a great athlete. He's a voice leader. I ain't talked to him since he graduated. I'm gonna send him. I'm going out and see him today, see him play, and see him. I'm gonna talk to him today.
Well, I bet your next one was to tell me about the other Packer, Chris Pierce, catching a 17-yard touchdown pass for Vanderbilt against Middle Tennessee. Was that where you were going next?
No, I was going that next. And I was so emotional last Saturday night, and I think I jumped up and I think I pulled some hamstring or something.
Pulled a hamstring cheering for Chris Pierce. Okay.
Yes, and he's another workhorse. You might see him in 2 years in the NFL.
Woo! I think he's got a chance to be a Sunday player. I don't know about 2 years, but I tell you what, he's moving up the depth chart for Vanderbilt. 6'4" receiver, 210, 215. He's got that body, the ability to catch the ball. He's strong. He's got a chance to play on Sundays.
Yes, sir. He will play. He played today at 12 o'clock. Going to be on 804 SEC channel, and he will play. They play Nevada today.
Yeah, they have Nevada next, the Wolfpack. I think they'll win that game.
Yes, and Dinwood beat Salem Spartans last night in 27-20.
I watched that game courtesy of the Game Day Broadcast Network, and you can see my game blog on Virginia Preps watching that game last night. I had that one on the screen. I had a couple other games on the screen, as that was an interesting yet sloppy game, Keith, as Salem had at least 6 turnovers, maybe 7. Dinwiddie had a few turnovers mixed in, a lot of penalties. It was not the sharpest, cleanest of games, but it was a competitive, hard-hitting game.
Yes, sir. And also, you think Franklin, who could upset Riverhead if they get to the state championship? You think Franklin can pull off a big upset on Riverhead if they get to state?
I would say they can, but they won't. I think Riverheads is the prohibited favorite. Chilhowie has the most talent coming back to beat them. However, they lost to them 42-0 in the state championship as they returned 20 of 22 starters, does Chilhowie. I would keep an eye on Galax. Mark Dixon, that crew, they've won a state title before. They were young. So to answer your question, the team with the best chance is Galax. Now, Riverheads, I think, will lose next week, though, because they play East Rockingham, who's a Class 2 school out of the Shenandoah District, beat Robert E. Lee of Stanton last night. And East Rockingham has a great receiver, running back combination with Darius Brown at receiver. Jawan Evans at running back ran for 1,800 yards last year. Watch out for East Rockingham to beat Riverheads for the first time in school history next week.
Yes, sir. Y'all have a nice day.
Hey, Keith, did you mention your Southampton team?
They won.
I went there last week when they played War Hill.
Okay.
In War Hill, they got a good football team, and we got to see them down the line. And we got to take one game at a time, and we get ready for Jamestown next weekend.
Well, you can't take it 2 games at a time. You take it 2 games at a time, then you'll have trouble getting the one game done. So you got to do it one game. All right, Keith, have a good weekend.
And be careful jumping up and down and pulling muscles at your age. That's not good.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna try to be calm today.
All right, Keith, enjoy it.
Yes, sir.
The one and only Keith from Smithfield. He's happy that Southampton got a 49-14 win over Brunswick with Ricky Evans running for 116 yards and 2 touchdowns in that one. More to do here on High School Sports Talk presented by VirginiaPreps.com. Give us a call at 757-687-9494. That's 757-687-9494. Hit us up on Twitter, too, at HS Sports Talk 941, HS Sports Talk 941. It's exclusively every Saturday, 10 a.m. to noon, right here on ESPN Radio 94.1.
ESPN Radio 94.1.
You're listening to High School Sports Talk on ESPN Radio, presented by VirginiaPreps.com. Now let's get back to your hosts. It's Matt Hatfield and the coach, Ed Young.
Back here on the program. Phone lines are open. Give us a call at 757-687-9494 right here on ESPN Radio 94.1, 757-687-9494. We'll get you in here as we've got a lot of college football action later on today here on ESPN Radio 94.1. ODU going to try to bounce back after last week's loss to Liberty. Did not see that coming by 42 points. That was, I think, shocking would be the right way of phrasing it, as they were missing one of the key players that you coached, by the way, we've had on the program before. We talked about with Coach Bobby Wilder and Marvin Branch at linebacker, their leading tackler from last year. But even without him, you would not expect a 52-10 loss without him. And that game was close at halftime. I think it was 14-10, missed a couple of field goals, and then Liberty just really opened up a can in the second half. And it was Kentori Matthews, the Tallwood grad running back for them, that had a great performance to give him a little bit of love there, as Turner Gill and the Flames have moved up from FCS to FBS rather successfully there.
Yeah, that Old Dominion score was a major shock to me. I think I picked Old Dominion by almost 3 touchdowns. So
I did too. I had 2 touchdowns. I thought they were going to win comfortably.
And that's nothing, again, not disrespecting Liberty. but I just thought this was all set up for Old Dominion, and it wasn't. So we'll see what today's action brings, and I think Marvin Branch is playing today.
Oh, is he back in the lineup?
He will be back in the lineup for the Monarchs.
All right, so there you have it. We got coming up a little bit later on today, I think we have UCLA at Oklahoma's 12:30 right here, I think is the first game we've gotten, and coming on later on tonight at about 6:30, it'll be Florida International at ODU as the Monarchs make their home debut for 2018, try to get back in the win column there after the tough opener there. On 13:10, we've got UNC at ECU 2:30 So keep it tuned. We got you covered here on ESPN Radio 94.1 and 1310 across the hall. 757-687-9494 will get you in here, Ed, as we'll talk a little bit about next week's high school football games around Hampton Roads and some stories. By the way, I know this is not a local, and we'll talk a little bit more about this on High School Sports Talk Plus, our video show, which you can always find on VirginiaPreps.com. We do it periodically. We tend to do it weekly during the football season and sort of about once or twice a month during the off-season time for football and basketball. But, Ed, you will find this interesting. Grundy over Lebanon, 43-14. You say, why the heck am I going to find Grundy over Lebanon interesting, 43-14? Interesting.
Why do you find that interesting?
Well, I said you'll find it interesting. But why do I find it interesting? And why you'll find it interesting is because running back Gabe Pfizer ran for 337 yards, a school record, on 19 carries last night, a week after he ran for a school record 336 yards rushing. So in 2 games, my man, Mr. Pfizer, has rushed for 600. Here's the math here. I got an A- in math. Then get an A+, A-. 673 yards in 2 games. He's 5'9", 165 pounds at Grundy High School, Gabe Pfizer. And I would say that's State Player of the Week material.
Feisty Pfizer, I'm telling you can't bring him down. And he'll probably get 300 this week.
I don't know who Grundy played. That's a good question. Just to see if he. I'm trying to. Now this will be. We have to call on our historian, and if he's listening, he will. I'm guaranteed because he is so good at this. Our historian, the longtime Daily Press reporter and HR Varsity reporter Lynn Burke, because he would get this for us. The last time somebody ran for 300 yards in back-to-back, and maybe say back-to-back-to-back weeks, because that's unheard of that you have 2 300-yard games in a row, but 3 would be even crazier to think. I want to say someone from Suffolk a couple years ago. Was it? It wasn't Deshaun Wethington. It might have been the running back at Lakeland, DeMontre Miltier. You remember him a couple years back?
Remember the name.
I think he had like back-to-back 250-yard games. I don't know that he had 300 back-to-back. But and you're wondering about Grundy, who they play next. They have a bye week, so he will not run for 300 yards next week.
He won't get 300 this week.
The week after that, they play their Black Diamond District rival, Honaker. Or Honaker, as you say. It's Honaker.
I like Honaker.
Who was undefeated at 3-0. So that'll be a big showdown. If he runs for 300 yards on them, he's doing something impressive. So I don't think he'll do it again. Let's get to the more important matters in the games next week, since I had to steer off track and go all the way down to Grundy. Speaking of which, how long would it take to get to Grundy High School from here? Do you know?
Too many days.
Too many days? Give me an hours. How many? If you went straight there right now. If you got on I-64 and made the trip to Grundy. What do you think, Thomas? How long would it take to get from here to Grundy High School if you left right now?
I don't even know where that is.
It's way out there. Past Roanoke, past Blacksburg. It's way out there.
Oh, man. That's like 5-6 hours.
That's a good guess. You're close.
Say 5.5.
How about 7 hours and 41 minutes?
Oh, wow.
According
that's
to Google
like
Maps.
Extreme Western.
Yeah, it is. That's extreme.
Yeah, I can be in Pennsylvania.
There are parts of Tennessee closer.
We said it before when we had on the UVA-wise football coach. You can get to Madison Square Garden in New York quicker than you can UVA-wise. Mm-hmm. And you probably can get there to the Garden quicker than you can Grundy High School. So I will not be making any trips out to Grundy anytime soon. Let's get to next week's games, Eds. Tell me what, we'll go district by district, what stands out to you, what sticks out. Give me what district you want to start with first, so the 5 local.
Let's go Beach.
Districts. Beach, all right. Bayside is off next week. Cox is at Green Run to try to get to 3-0. First Colonial hosts Kellum as the Patriots try to get Coach Carlos Martinez his first win, whereas the Knights come off a bye week seeking a 2-1 start. You have Kempsville with that long losing streak hosting Tallwood, who will try to make it 3-1 on the year after they lost to Ocean Lakes last night. The big one is Ocean Lakes hosting Salem, while Princess Anne looks to play spoiler for Lansdowne. The Cavaliers are 0-3, Lansdowne 3-0. Sneaky game. I don't think they're going to pull the upset there, but sneaky game nonetheless. Salem Ocean Lakes is the one that stands out, and I would wonder, Ed, about Salem's offense after scoring just 19 points and 13 points the last 2 weeks. Do they have enough offense? Can they muster up enough offense to relish the opportunity and beat the Dolphins? See what I did there? Mustered up enough offense to relish the opportunity to beat the Dolphins? I didn't get much sleep last night.
Yeah, I could tell. I would say that it's, again, the Dolphins are rolling right now. I don't see that streak stop anytime soon. But the Beach top teams in the Beach. We talked about Southeastern's top 4 or 5 teams being very strong, close. I think the Beach is the same way.
I agree.
Even a team like Bayside, who's struggling a little bit.
When you said it last week, to watch out, they could win their next 4 games, and that's a good start. You look at only 23 points; that's not a huge number, but the defense shutting out Green Run, and they didn't give up a boatload to Lansdowne the week before. That game was really 7-7 through 2.5 quarters. So,
and even Green Run, a team that again has got some youngsters on that line, I equate them a little bit to like Norview. That watch them beat somebody that we're going to say, "Oh, didn't see that coming." Any win that Green Run gets is going to be not a surprise to me.
No, they're not a pushover or a typical 0-3 team because they have some athletes and some speed. I do think this is a great test for Ocean Lakes from this standpoint. We wondered a little bit about their run defense, and they take on Kalon Black, the running back for Salem, who is certainly one of the best in the area, Ed. He's got on the season to date 518 yards and 7 touchdowns rushing. I think he leads Hampton Roads. So they're going to face the best running back in town, and we'll see what Ocean Lakes' defense can do after giving up over 300 yards and 21 points at Tallwood. Granted, a couple of those touchdowns were in the fourth quarter. You say garbage time. Ocean Lakes got a big lead, but let's see. Their defense was really good the first 2 weeks against Kellum and First Colonial. Now they're stepping up against some playmakers because you have Kalon Black this week, and then the next week it's Tavion Robinson and Cox. And through 2 games, they've put up 94 points, and Robinson's looked unstoppable, as has Leno Lester. So if you key in on just Robinson, Lester will beat you.
Yeah, again, Robinson is just in a class by himself, and I always thought it was amazing how one player can dominate in football. I could see it a little bit in basketball. You can have a great hitter or a great pitcher in baseball, but football to me is just because there's so many guys on the field, it's a little bit tough for one guy to dominate. But way back in the day when I saw Allen Iverson do it, of course Robinson's doing it now, it definitely can happen. Well,
and I think Cox has a little bit more firepower than Salem, who's going to lean on Black offensively. If you take him away, Ocean Lakes may be in good shape. I don't know that they can just take away Robinson. First off, nobody's done it, A, and B, you still got to worry about Lester and Jackson Morgan, the big bruising fullback. So Cox has some other pieces that you have to account for, and it could be a little bit more difficult for Ocean Lakes' defense, and Ocean Lakes the preseason favorite in the Beach District. So now where do we go, to the Eastern?
Yes.
Okay, you got Lake Taylor Freedom today, which is the big one at 2 o'clock in Norfolk. Booker T. Washington's at Wilson, trying to go to 3-1. President's hoping to even their record at 2-2 on the campaign. What about the Norview? They're off next week. Maury will go to Lake Taylor, chance to go to 4-0. So Coach McCain and company will be scouting that one today. That's a big showdown. And then you have Granby hosting Norcom, somebody looking for their first win on the season. Churchland is at Armstrong in Richmond.
Could we have Norcom at what? What is Norcom? 0-2?
0-3. Lost to Hopewell, Lafayette, and Booker T.
Could that be the surprise going the other way?
Yeah, it would be. Last week we were talking about them and Bayside on the video show. Bayside recovered quicker than Norcom has, and now it's 4 straight road games with Granby, Churchland, Minchville, and Norview for the Greyhounds, and they still got to play Lake Taylor and Maury. That doesn't include them in the 4-game road stretch here.
Yeah, I would say they need a couple of these wins to get back on track. I mean, of course, you got to get your first win. But that's a good program. It was a big win for Booker T. I don't think we emphasize that enough because Norcom 0-3, I would have never guessed it.
Well, and if Booker T can somehow knock off Maury in a couple weeks too, they could be looking at a real nice record. They could be sitting at 5-1 when they go to Northern Virginia to take on Broad Run, who put a whooping on them last year. But DJ Alexander keeping the Bookers in the thick of things over there. We'll finish up with the Southeastern Peninsula and Bay Rivers in a bit here, but let's go back to the phones at 757-687-9494 and talk to Adam in Norfolk. What's happening, Adam?
How you doing, Matt?
Doing well.
All right. I want to add, I know this game is out of it. I know this team is out of the area, but Jefferson Forest, I'm a big fan of their team. I love that wishbone offense they run. Mm-hmm. How do you think they'll do in 4A this year?
All right, thanks for the call, Adam. Let you hear it. Jefferson Forest got a huge win last night. They were one of my Hats Hits takeaways on Twitter, which you can see every Friday night at Hatfield Sports. We put them up on VirginiaPreps.com, too. We had them outside our top 10. I wanted to put them in there. Bob Christmas running that wishbone offense, running some option a lot. I felt like they were on the cusp. I was wondering about their defense. And, Ed, they took on a defense last night in GW Danville who beat them 57-56 last year, was averaging 52 points per game this year, and they won a lower scoring than expected game, 27-21, coming from behind. So Jefferson Forest didn't wonder about their offense scoring, but they put up some impressive plays defensively, got some tackles, some stops against GW Danville in that high-octane machine to where now they could be, with a bye week coming up, they could be thinking about a big run. They've got EC Glass and Brookville later on the schedule. They close up shop on the road in their Seminole District against Heritage of Lynchburg on the road. And I know a lot of people around here listening saying, what are you talking about Jefferson Forest for? We do have a lot of people that listen on the web on VirginiaPreps.com and ESPN Radio 941.com. But Ed, they could be a team as we get to state time, and we're talking about maybe a Lake Taylor or a Lafayette or somebody coming out of here. They could potentially see them in the state finals, as Jefferson Forest could be the biggest threat to Salem out west in their region.
I put a lot of points on the board. You got to respect that. It's, obviously, you know, make sure in that defense, because as you get into playoff time and further go, scoring is nice, and more points wins games, but you got to be real consistent on defense.
Well, you hold a team that scored 57 on you last year, averaging 52 this year per game to 21. You're doing something right. They've fixed up, and some of that's experience, getting players that were back. When you return 17, 18 starters from a program that's won before, had a little bit of a dip, a down year, you're going to be better the next year. And we're seeing that with Lake Taylor, perhaps. There wasn't really a dip year for them. They just didn't have a typical dominant year, winning 7 out of 11 games. But when that happens and you have the coaching staff entrenched and used to winning, and you bring back more experience, you're going to be right there in the mix.
Agree.
When we come back, we'll go through the Southeastern Peninsula and Bay Rivers right here on High School Sports Talk. Give us a call at 757-687-9494 and hit us up on Twitter too at HS Sports Talk 941, only on ESPN Radio 94.1.
You're listening to High School Sports Talk on ESPN Radio, presented by VirginiaPreps.com. Now let's get back to your hosts, Matt Hatfield and the coach, Ed Young.
We thank Greg Madia for coming on earlier with the DukesofJMU.com, football beat writer at the Daily News Record, as he previewed the James Madison Norfolk State game later on today. We also thank Dominic Velardi from the High School Football Scoreboard Show for his interview contribution with Coach Corey Hairston of the Warwick Raiders. Before we get back to some high school sports topics at hand, the phone lines are still open here. You got one more segment at 757-687-9494 to hop in here. Give us a call at 757-687-9494. A couple of housekeeping items. Congrats to Lefty Drizel, the Norfolk native and Granby High School graduate, longtime Maryland James Madison coach, being inducted last night into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. Well-deserved, a long overdue wait, and he gets into the hall. I never forget one of our first years doing a show, and some guy called in from Norfolk as Lefty in Norfolk, and we're like, Lefty Drizel, this is like no ordinary Lefty, and just a class guy. Wish him all the best, and glad to see that he's in the Hall of Fame, rightfully deserved there.
Yeah, he really deserves it. He was a character, but and he came across sometimes as a little goofy to people, but the guy can coach. He had some tremendous players in Maryland, but he can coach, and great to see that he finally got his just dues to get into the Hall of Fame. And he still holds a state record as a coach, most consecutive wins. 57 at the old Newport News High School.
Newport News High School with Granby, and it's really great to see a local guy like that get into the Hall. And joining an interesting class is you had Jason Kidd, Grant Hill, Steve Nash. Who else am I leaving out from that class last night? But
Ray Allen,
Maurice
Cheeks,
Mo Cheeks,
Charlie Scott. Oh, we don't forget about.
Remember we did our top 5 UNC Duke thing back in the summer. A guy called in about that. Hey, one other thing. I know this is a little bit off topic from high school. Fantasy football. I gave you last year my sleeper, Cooper Kupp with the Rams, and he delivered the wide receiver. I'm going to give you a sleeper that Thomas is going to know real well here. He's a rookie with the Miami Dolphins, tight end, Penn State guy. Is it Mike Gesicki? Is that it? Gesicki. I tell you what,
red zone guy.
You can dump Austin Hooper with a pooper scooper after that dreadful performance in the red zone Thursday night. I had him on my team. That's why I said dump with a pooper scooper.
Speaking of
and pick up Gesicki.
Speaking of performance, Thomas, Penn State, Appalachian State, a little scared?
Yeah, it was a little closer than I hoped.
Yeah, he walked out of here all confident they're going to roll.
It was a 14-point game with 8 minutes to go, and then things got real screwy from there. I think they'll be fine.
We're sweating bullets. We can't.
I don't know why Appalachian State ran the ball into the end zone with 1:42 left instead of just taking a knee and kicking a game winner.
Well, that would make sense. We can't go into great detail about the shirt you have on today, but it's an anti-Pittsburgh shirt.
Yeah,
we'll just say
it's
that.
not very friendly to those people.
No, it's not. It's an anti-Pittsburgh.
Hopefully we're not friendly to those people today.
I love Penn State though in this game today. I think they will. I don't know if they'll destroy Pitt, but I think they'll definitely win with comfort.
Pitt brings out the weird motion offense playbook, and they will slow the clock down and game control, so it'll be weird.
I think they'll pull away, though.
That's that big back in the day when Pitt was really good. This was one heck of a game. It was the big rival. State of Pennsylvania, Penn State.
I think this used to be Black Friday weekend, and then so did Colorado, Nebraska, and that's back this week also.
It's a great game, Colorado, Nebraska. We didn't even have it on our Pick 6 games up on the website. Pittsburgh doesn't have Larry Fitzgerald anymore, whose jersey I'm wearing, and hopefully the Cardinals will get me a nice little W there over the Redskins on Sunday. Let's finish with the high school picks here. We got a couple minutes left here. We did the Eastern and the Beach District. Ed, give me a game you like out of the 3 districts. Give me one that you'll take that you would have to go buy a ticket and go see, and you're too cheap to buy a ticket, but for the fans out there to buy a ticket. Grassfield hosts Oscar Smith. Western Branch is at Deep Creek. Indian River's at Great Bridge. Hickory's at Kings Fork. Or the Suffolk Showdown, Lakeland at Nansemond River.
I'm not excited about any of those games.
Well, thanks a lot. You just ruined the segment.
I'd go Nansemond River, Lakeland.
Of course you would, because you're biased and you're a Nansemond guy.
And it's 2 Suffolk teams. It's a battle.
You got to be there anyway because you're working the gate.
Yeah, I got to work the gates.
All right, so you go. Peninsula District now. Menchville, Bethel, not the craziest great games there. Denby, that's today, Bethel, Menchville, excuse me. Bethel at Warwick next week. You have Denby and Menchville next week. You have Gloucester, Kickingham. Can Gloucester get its first win? Hampton at Heritage next Saturday at Todd Stadium at 1 o'clock. And Woodside Phoebus this coming Thursday. No,
Thursday, Woodside Phoebus is the game, but that's Thursday. Friday game, it's interesting. Can Warwick win? Go see Warwick get that fourth win. And then I like the
Gloucester Kickingham to see if Gloucester can get a win. What do you like?
Hampton, can they come back against that
Heritage
team?
Yeah.
And you got Mr. Massenberg coaching Heritage against his alma mater.
Remember, they did get hot last year. Yeah, he can't tie up Mike Smith because he's not coaching in the all-time series. But the Woodside Phoebus game's fascinating to me, and you can hear the sweet sounds of our good buddy Bill Nettles, the legendary PA announcer there. Bay Rivers District, what do we got here? We got Grafton at Poquoson. I don't think that's going to be a big battle. Bruton, New Kent. You have Jamestown, Smithfield. That's a 1 o'clocker next Saturday. Lafayette, War Hill. Ooh, that's intriguing. And you have York at Tab. I'd be inclined to say Lafayette, War Hill. I'm kind of interested to see how Tab does off that win against a York team. York hasn't really been tested to the wire yet. Maybe Tab with Matt Lawson, disciplined team, they can do it.
I'm going Lafayette and War Hill.
I thought you would, to see if War Hill can really step up and challenge that 52-game win streak in the Bay Rivers.
That would work as a game of the week in any district.
Well, so give me the one game in the area you could go see next week. Lafayette, War Hill, Phoebus, Woodside. We'll skip the Southeastern. Lafayette, War Hill, Phoebus, Woodside, Lake Taylor, Maury, or Ocean Lake, Salem. What's the best game next week? This will be our poll question we'll put up there on HS Sports Talk.
Stay with Lafayette,
War Hill.
War Hill, but I like that beach matchup.
You do like the beach matchup. I like the Lake Taylor Maury. Anything with the Norfolk rivalry, got a little spice to it, a little buzz.
No, I think Lake Taylor wins that.
I love that game. The defensive coordinator for Maury, Mike Privet, is a former standout linebacker for Hank Sawyer at Lake Taylor. There'll be a little bit of friendly tension, we'll say. That's a good one. Now, Lake Taylor has to win today for that game to be game of the week, though. If they lose today, it's not as interesting. So there you have it. Nonetheless, some good ones next week, and that'll do it. We are out of time. We thank you for tuning in to this September 8th edition of High School Sports Talk presented by VirginiaPreps.com. If you missed any of it, go to VirginiaPreps.com. Click on the replay. You can hear all the archived segments and interviews you might have missed right there on your website for high school sports around Virginia. We thank our producer engineer Thomas Simmons on the other side of the glass. I am Matt Hatfield.
I'm the coach, Ed Young.
And he can't wait until October so his Yankees can put a scare into the Red Sox. They got to get past the Oakland A's first.
That's my worry.
We'll do it again next Saturday, the 15th of September, on your home for sports. High school football, college football, pro football. What is it?
ESPN Radio 94.1.